How's everyone?
Good, and yourself?
Doing really well.
So as you see, things are a little bit different today. We have a guest with us.
There's a fourth person here.
There's four of us now.
We have four corners. We're square, at least on my side. Are we square on your side?
Square on my side.
Totally square on mine.
We are squares today.
All right, guys. So this is Daniel. This is the leader of our organization, the Global Alliance, or Global Excel Group. Sorry.
The leader
I don't know
supreme.
where Alliance came from.
Leader Supreme of the Global Excel Group. That's right.
Leader Supreme.
Well,
So Daniel's talking to us a little bit about.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, so Daniel's going to tell you a little bit about our organization just to get to know us a little bit better. So Daniel, go ahead and introduce yourself.
So I'm Daniel. Thanks guys for having me on. This is week 4 of your show. So I said get 10,000 participants and I'll do it, but here we are. Happy to be a part of this growth. You guys are awesome. What can I tell you about myself to keep it somewhat short? Been in the business almost 2 decades. Can I curse on this?
Absolutely.
Sure.
Yeah.
I should know for kids.
In my first decade of doing this business, saw a lot of the pitfalls of this industry, saw a lot of the trappings that most of the time agents fall into, and then decided to see if I can do something about it. And I transitioned into more of the leadership side of the business. I started working in agent development in small boutique firms throughout New York City, which is where I am originally from, and sort of worked my way up to more of the bigger box firms. So I've run a 100 agent office for a company under the Realogy umbrella in Brooklyn, New York. And most recently, prior to coming to EXP, I ran or rather helped run a couple of offices for Keller Williams up in North Florida. So my game has been helping entrepreneurs, real estate entrepreneurs, not real estate agents, real estate entrepreneurs realize their dreams and their ambitions, and not necessarily have to be or not necessarily fall into the trapping of working and running around the rest of their lives, which is the same pitfall for anyone in the corporate world. And I'm sure we'll discuss more about that. But I started the Excel Group kind of almost accidentally, if you will. I came over to EXP about 13, 14 months ago. And then over time, it just kind of became this thing that kind of took on a life of its own. It's a really, really great close-knit community. As you know, those of you that are watching this on a weekly basis can see, these are three people who literally met like a few months ago. So you can see the dynamic between the three of them. And that's something that we have very, very wide inside of our group. And again, I didn't know what this was going to become. I knew that there was going to be a certain type of people that I wanted to work with, a certain type of mindset, a certain type of personality, people who were collaborative, people who would understand the value of being immersed more into a community. And then from then on, it's just kind of taken on, like I mentioned, a life of its own, and it's growing, and it's been a privilege to kind of lead the way, so to speak, ever since. And the future is really, really bright. And these are 3 examples of them.
Love it. So you did not tell us, how many agents strong are we as of today?
So this morning we are 85 net agents. So we're right now on average growing by about 8 to 10 agents a month right now, which has been kind of our pace over the last few months. So it's been a very nice, slow and steady growth. As we continue to grow, we continue to implement new things to help people grow as individuals. The whole point, the whole thing, the whole reason why I came up with the Excel Group name is the excelling of our individual lives, which is what we're doing. And we're doing it again as a community, as a family. And we're going to be doing a lot of stuff moving forward in more of the physical world to really help introduce a whole new set of value propositions to the real estate community. A lot of whom have no idea that options like these are out there for them. So hopefully we're going to continue to see this nice steady growth. But again, growth is only as important as the quality of people who choose to partner with you and the quality of people that you choose to partner with. So the concern is sort of a balance. The goal is sort of a balance between, yes, we want growth and we want numbers and all that good stuff, because that's sort of how businesses like this or ideas like this operate. But you also want the right type of people. You don't want a revolving door, which is so often the common thing that happens in our industry.
Only if you're awesome.
Yeah, Dan, I remember meeting with you about like a year ago, right? A little bit over a year ago. And you're telling me about this brokerage that you're going to and how it's cloud-based. I really didn't hear about things at that point in time. I really didn't know exactly what you meant. But I remember you coming to me and you were at zero, right? I mean, it was.
I wasn't even officially over. I think when you and I had coffee, I had, I think either I just came over, I was maybe a week away from officially transferring over. And what I said to you, I had a vision, there's no question about it. I knew that with this platform and the amount of resources that this platform is able to provide for agents, combined with, I guess, my willingness at that time, and of course now, to bridge the gap and be able to provide a little bit more of that community aspect that so many of us, quite frankly, crave. I knew that eventually I would be able to, we would be able to get to a place where it's something that's really tangible and something that's really special, quite frankly. And again, I feel like we're still very much in the beginning stages of this. You know, it's only been a year, but yeah, man, when you and I met, you know, there was a lot going on. I was scared shitless because I was making this move, and I was.
I couldn't tell. I couldn't tell on my end. You just
Oh,
you do really well at holding your cards.
The thing is, yeah, I guess I was scared internally, but I was incredibly optimistic. I knew that I was making the right move. I knew it, but at the time I was giving up a pretty substantial financial comfort. You know, and it's not the easiest thing. And, you know, my wife was like 4 months pregnant. And so there was a lot going on. And, but sometimes you gotta go through that. You know, you gotta understand that the fears that you may be having is probably a good thing. You know, sometimes we look at fear as a bad thing. Sometimes we look at fear as something that is our gut telling us that we're doing something wrong. But I think it's actually quite the opposite. You know, and for me at the time, there was this fear, yeah, but there was also this sense of excitement and this newfound freedom that I was experiencing that I hadn't experienced in a really long time, where I could be really opportunistic with respects to whom I work with. And being in a cloud-based model, I didn't necessarily have to create this environment where it was a come one, come all situation that, quite frankly, most brokerages do. You see, in a franchise model, right, when you have a Keller Williams office, essentially, just to use Keller as an example, because they're so big, you know, you've got another office, you know, a couple of zip codes away. So you're very much limited as an office to where you're going to be hiring agents from, or where you're going to be farming agents from. Because if somebody's from a different zip code and there's a nearby office in that zip code, that's that office. And that's just kind of how it works, which is fair. And I get that. But because you're sort of limited as a brokerage, what you're doing is you're essentially saying to everyone, anyone that wants to work here, come work here, because our bread and butter is agents, agents, agents. You know, and so when you're sitting down with somebody in that environment and that somebody's telling you all these things that you can do for them, it's oftentimes difficult to fully take words at their truest merit, because you don't know if they're telling you gospel or if they're telling you things just because they need to crank up their numbers. You know, so for me, I never wanted to operate that way. I hated that aspect of it. I hated being under the pressure of what are your gross numbers, what are your net numbers in terms of bringing in agents in. I understand why that's important, but that never really necessarily resonated with me, you know? And so a cloud-based model at that time, what that did is that gave me an opportunity to essentially, where a Keller Williams office or a Remax office, if they're farming from a couple of zip codes, I'm farming from essentially every zip code in this country. And so because if there's such a much bigger pool, I can sit down with somebody and I can have a lot more honest conversations with a lot more candor and really have a better understanding of whether or not a partnership would be mutually beneficial. Because I would never, ever, ever put someone in a position that I felt was wrong for them, because it would be a waste of their time and quite frankly, a waste of mine.
Yeah.
So yeah, you know, when you and I met, it seemed like a lot, it was only like a year and change ago, but it seems a lot longer because so much has happened.
Yes.
13 or 14 months, you know. But that was a really exciting and interesting time. And I knew that you would work really, really well because of your, let's just say, willingness to just put yourself out there, you know. And you and I ended up connecting because we had some common ground that we're not going to talk about today.
Correct.
But when I actually was able
That's
to,
the after hour talk.
yeah, that's going to be like that's going to be a thirsty Thursday Zoom call we'll do. But when I met with you, I knew that you were about family and you were about making shit happen for your family. And I knew right there and then that you were someone that I really wanted to work with.
I really appreciate that. And I would say, since I've joined our group, I've just seen just the level of knowledge I have and just things just kind of like take off like a rocket ship. You know, I wrote my first contract, not wrote my first contract, but been under contract and closed that contract within this group. And that was thanks to the 3 individuals here, you know, Kendra, Kristen, and Dan. You know, he's all played a part. And that's what I like about our group so much. And that's why when I do talk to other agents or newly licensed agents, you know, I say it's amazing to me how we have this ecosystem of just like ask and will receive. You know, I don't have to be. I feel like I used to feel like I have to be an expert. Now I feel like there's experts like Kendra and Kristen and yourself, where I could just be like, hey, what is this piece? And then I get the solution, so I could manage myself better, and I feel more confident. And I just see such a tremendous amount of growth within this ecosystem. So I just want to thank you 3 for that. And I guess, you know, I feel like the sky's the limit.
Yeah, you know, let me just touch on that. First of all, I appreciate your words. This is Kristen's like, he's hijacking this thing now. So
Yeah, it's all good.
I just know what she's thinking. You know, I came from more of a creative world, like the business world and the creative world in terms of how companies function are substantially different. The business world is very cutthroat and it's not very collaborative. That's just how it goes. The creative world, if you've ever been inside of like a Facebook or a Google or even like a small tech company, they're in one room together. All right, they're sitting on beanbags and they're just talking to one another. They're playing ping pong and they're talking to one another. Everything is just like a community. And so I've always looked at real estate from that standpoint. I never wanted to structure someone that resonated, say, the finance world, which a lot of real estate, that's kind of the world that I come from, right? Like I come from a very, you know, New York City cutthroat world where if an agent is making shit happen, they're not sharing it with anyone else. Like if you find that pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, you're not showing anyone the roadmap towards that pot of gold, right? Because you've now uncovered something that is your own. You know, it's fine. That's totally fine. And I get that. And I've always wanted to structure this, whether it be past offices that I worked, that I ran, or whether it be our group here, the way that, you know, any creative office sort of looks like, where people are together and they may not look like they're doing much because they could just be sitting around talking, but they're doing something, right? There's exchange of information. There are ideas that are coming. And I've always liked to think that this industry, the real estate industry, even though like you're taught not necessarily like you don't need to reinvent the wheel, therethere's a creative aspect to this industry that I think for the most part, in most parts of our industry, it goes completely untapped.
Mm-hmm.
And it's no different than like, I don't know, I guess to use this analogy, like some of the best songs that have ever been written are just the band in a room just jamming.